Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this crossover week as we celebrate the passage of the Virginia Right to Contraception Act from both chambers. They're now crossing over. So very excited to be here today and call on the General Assembly to finish the job and send this bill to the governor's desk. My name is Katie Baker. I'm here today on behalf of Americans for Contraception. We are an advocacy organization that is fighting to pass both federal and state legislation that would codify our right to use contraception, including condoms, IUDs, the pill, and emergency contraceptives. We formed in response to an explicit threat to contraception from Justice Clarence Thomas, who wrote in his concurrence in the Dobbs decision that the court should reconsider the Griswold v. Connecticut, which guaranteed the right to contraception next. Since then, we have been traveling with Frida, who is a 20-foot inflatable IUD, I believe to 20 states or so, to spread the word about threats to the right to contraception and call on lawmakers to pass this bill. Since we started, we've seen even more threats to the right to contraception. Last year, Donald Trump said on the campaign trail that he was looking at restrictions on contraception. Project 2025 explicitly put in writing threats to emergency contraceptives. Just last week, the Associated Press reported that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have removed information about contraception from that website. So this is really something that is happening, and I believe there was just a bill introduced in South Carolina that would ban IUDs and emergency contraceptives. So we're here to say that the threat is real, and the fact that anyone would vote against this bill, as nearly every Republican in that building did, is testament to the fact that we need it. Thankfully, we have legislative champions who are here and who have gotten this bill through their chambers. So with no further ado, I will introduce Senator Ghazala Hashmi, who is chair of the Senate and Education, Health, and Health Committee. Senator.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Katie. Thank you for bringing Frida back. As a senator representing Richmond, I am delighted to see Frida coming back to Richmond again. I've humanized her. Frida is a she has traveled the country. She spread the word how critical this legislation is, not just in Virginia, but all across the country. So welcome again to Frida. As Katie mentioned, I'm Senator Ghazala Hashmi. I represent the city of Richmond and Chesterfield County, and I'm honored to serve as chair of the Virginia Senate Education and Health Committee. One thing that I've been working hard to do is to make it clear that this committee, the Senate Education and Health Committee, will always protect and defend reproductive rights and reproductive health care. During my tenure in the Virginia Senate, the Senate has advanced bills that make reproductive health care more accessible while blocking any and every attempt to restrict reproductive rights. You know, a lot of the public are not aware of the kind of extremist policies that Glenn Youngkin, as well as my Republican colleagues, continue to introduce session after session. The public is not aware of those extremist bills because we continue to block those bills every session that don't even get out of committee. And this past November as well, Virginia sent a very clear message that we strongly reject Donald Trump and extremist Republican efforts to put restrictions on our bodies. Virginia voters said no to a president who is actually proud of having overturned Roe v. Wade. And Virginia said no to a president who said he's open to state restrictions on the access to contraception. And this is the danger that we are facing. In the Virginia Senate, when the Right to Contraception Act came up in front of the full chamber, not a single Republican colleague voted in support of that bill. Even more critical for us to understand is that our lieutenant governor voted against the right to contraception when it was presented to her on the floor of the chamber as a tie vote. She voted to restrict the access to contraception. She said Virginia women do not have a right to contraception. Let's keep that in mind as she continues to run for the governorship next year. This is so critically important. Virginia must ensure the right to contraception in our state now. The threat to contraception is no longer just a campaign promise from Donald Trump. That man is now in the Oval Office, and our rights to our own bodies are literally on the line. So I and Delegate Price have reintroduced the Virginia Right to Contraception Act once again this year because Republicans are ready for round 2 of their attacks on reproductive freedom. We are already seeing it with this administration of Donald Trump pulling down the information about contraception from the CDC website. So let's not leave any doubt. The Virginia House and the Virginia Senate are going to send this bill once again to Governor Youngkin. Once again, he must decide, is he going to listen to Virginia voters, or is he going to listen to the most extreme wing of his party? So let's be assured, Delegate Price and I are going to continue to make our case to this governor. It's time that he stops listening to extremists and instead starts listening to Virginians. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Senator, and excited to introduce our contraception champions in the House. I do want to name Delegate Holly Seabold is here, who is a chief co-patron of the bill. So thank you, Delegate. And it's my honor to introduce Delegate Price, who is the patron of the bill in the House. Delegate.
Hello everyone, and thank you for being here today. I am Delegate Price, and I represent the 85th District in Newport News. Last year, we stood right here with the same ask that the governor would stand with Virginians and sign the Right to Contraception Act. Instead, he ended up vetoing the bill. So we're back because we have to keep working until Virginians' right to access contraception is protected. So what has changed since last year? I'll tell you. MAGA Republicans have taken charge and have wasted no time rolling back our rights, rolling back access to scientific information, and stripping life-saving information from the CDC website about contraception. They are shutting down agencies that fight for our civil rights, and they are causing chaos. And instead of focusing on the legislative work we're doing here to protect Virginians, the governor went to D.C. to bow down to Donald Trump and rubber stamp his assault on our values and condone his unconstitutional power grabs. But make no mistake, we are focused on doing the actual work, passing legislation that protects, uplifts, and empowers working families right here in Virginia. Just yesterday, my colleagues and I passed a responsible budget, prioritizing healthcare access, public schools, and tax fairness. We are advancing bills to lift up workers, make housing more affordable, and make voting easier. And we are also responding to the very real attacks on our reproductive freedom. Last year, people told us that we were speculating or fabricating a crisis where we weren't, and now it is clear that the threat to our access to contraception is real. And emboldened by their slow wins on the federal level, even more Republicans have set their sights on restricting access to contraception. But we have a real opportunity here in Virginia to make sure that doesn't happen. In just a few days, the Right to Contraception Act will be sent back to the governor's desk, and he'll have to make clear, does he stand with chaos and taking our freedoms, or will he stand with Virginians and sign the bill to protect our access to contraception? This bill remains widely popular amongst Democrats, Independents, and Republicans because I hope we can all agree that the access to IUDs, condoms, birth controls, and Plan B is not only deeply personal, but important for Virginians on deciding if and when they start a family, and for those of us dealing with very real health issues. The legislative process is very important for a few reasons. Not only for us to pass important legislation relating to your everyday lives, but so you will know who we are and what we stand for. Though the majority of Republicans, including Lieutenant Governor Sales, are voting against you, Democrats won't stop until Virginians have their rights protected. Senator Hashmi and I are committed to this, and we urge the governor to do the right thing and sign the bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate. Next, we will have Ray Pickett from Planned Parenthood. Ray.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ray Pickett, and I am the Communications Director for Planned Parenthood Advocates of Virginia. Thank you so much for being here today to discuss the important topic of contraception, specifically to intrauterine devices, also known as IUDs. Contrary to what is behind me, an IUD is actually a small, T-shaped device that is placed inside the uterus to prevent pregnancy. There are two types. There are hormonal IUDs, which releases progestin to thicken cervical mucus and thin the uterine lining, and there is also copper IUD, which creates an environment that's hostile to fertilization. Both types are over 99% effective and are available to almost anyone, regardless of whether or not they've had children. One of the biggest benefits of IUDs is how long they last, anywhere from 3 to 12 years, depending on the type. Once in place, you don't have to think about it, which means no daily pills or constant refills. And if you decide to get pregnant, you can have it removed at any time, and your fertility will return quickly. IUDs also offer important health benefits for those with conditions like endometriosis or PCOS. Hormonal IUDs can reduce heavy bleeding and painful periods. And for those who can't use hormones, the copper IUD offers a non-hormonal option that is just as effective. But access to contraception is about more than just personal choice. It is about public health and social equity. Contraception helps people plan their families, pursue education, and maintain their well-being. Without it, unintended pregnancies can have significant economic and social consequences, especially for people of color, people with low incomes, and those who live in rural areas. Ensuring access to contraception, including IUDs, helps level the playing field and allows everyone to take control of their future. It's about autonomy, equity, and creating a society where every person can live. Thank you so much for being here today, and let's keep fighting for access to the care that we all deserve. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ray. I do want to thank Senator Kanan Srinivasan and Senator Jennifer Boysko for joining us today and for being such healthcare champions. Next, we will have Kenda Sutton-L from Birth in Color. Kenda.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for continuing to show up. No matter how many times we don't rebel or we come against us, as long as we continue to show up and we continue to fight, we're always going to make sure that we win. Thank you to Senator Hashmi and Delegate Price for championing this bill to ensure access to contraception and for never backing down. Your commitment demonstrates the importance of not just protecting, but also expanding reproductive health care options for Virginians. Access to contraception is fundamentally about reproductive justice. The ability to make informed decisions about our bodies, our futures, and our families with dignity, support, without barriers. At Birth in Color, we are often reminded of how essential contraception access is. We work with individuals each year who rely on contraception, not only for family planning, but for managing serious health conditions. For those with polycystic ovarian syndrome, or endometriosis, contraception isn't just a choice. It's a crucial medical treatment that impacts their daily lives. Do they really know what it's like to be survivors of PCOS and endometriosis? Do they know the pain that people go through without contraception? Do they really understand how you still have to get up and go to work daily while managing these symptoms? The reality in Virginia reflects a broader national crisis. Black individuals face disproportionate barriers of healthcare access, with studies showing 60% of Black women report challenges to accessing birth control. Whether it's due to cost, availability, or stigma. Beyond skin color, barriers to contraception strip people the ability to manage their health with dignity. For Black families, this simply continues on the marginalization we have long faced. For conservative colleagues, this is the opportunity to demonstrate that protecting people's health transcends partisan politics. This doesn't have to be about political parties. It can simply be about providing safe, fundamental health care for all. Governor Youngkin, I need you to sign this bill into law when it comes to your chamber. When you do, you'll be standing with every Virginian who has faced impossible choices about their health, with every family fighting to access basic care with fundamental principle that health care decisions belong in the hands of individuals. This isn't about politics. It's about recognizing the strength of our Commonwealth lies in protecting the dignity, health, and autonomy of all of our people. The time to act is now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kenda. Another thing I want to name is that this legislation not only protects the rights of patients, it also protects the rights of doctors. So excited to have a future doctor, Virginia medical student, Nofar Yarden, with us today.
Good morning. My name is Nofar Yarden, and I'm a Virginia resident and fourth-year medical student. I'm here today because access to contraception is deeply important to me, both personally and as a future physician. I've seen firsthand the consequences of limited access to contraception. At a Title X clinic, I worked closely with a young mother who had recently given birth and found herself unexpectedly pregnant again. Through tears, she shared her fears. How would she afford her diapers, food, childcare, and housing for her growing family? Unfortunately, her story is not unique. Nearly half of all pregnancies in Virginia are unintended. The ability to decide if and when to grow a family is essential to the health and stability of individuals and communities. But contraception isn't just about preventing pregnancy. For people with PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, heavy and painful periods, or hormonal acne, contraception is a critical part of their medical care. Blocking access to those medications can limit treatment options and in some cases impact future fertility. Just in 4 months, I will be a doctor, and I know that my future colleagues and I can face professional risks simply for providing evidence-based preventative care. This bill ensures that healthcare providers can educate and prescribe contraception without political interference. It is a necessary step to protect both patients and providers from continued attacks on reproductive health care. The Right to Contraception Act is about basic health care, bodily autonomy, and the freedom to make personal decisions without government overreach. I urge Governor Youngkin to stand with myself, providers, patients, and families by supporting this critical legislation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nofar, and also wanted to name that the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, or ACOG, has testified in support of this bill. And then finally, I am excited to introduce Sarah Goodman. She is from Roanoke. She is the Southwest Regional Organizer for Red Wine and Blue, and she's going to share her contraception story. Sarah.
Thank you. I want to thank Senator Hashmi and Delegate Price and the Americans for Contraception for having me here today. I'm Sarah Goodman. I'm an organizer with Red Wine and Blue. We are a community of women fighting extremism and I'm happy to be here today to share with you why contraception has been so important to me personally. I have two sons who are now 19 and 23 years old, but I'm very aware of the fact that had I not had access to contraception after they were born, I might not have been around to raise them. My pregnancies were both very difficult. Both ended in emergency cesarean sections. And after my last pregnancy, my doctor came up to me. It was a very traumatic experience for everyone in that operating room. And she said, "Sarah, 100 years ago, you would have been one of those women who died in childbirth. And I cannot recommend that you ever undertake another pregnancy, that it's just too risky for you." And, that was so sobering to me. Here I am holding my newborn son and my toddlers looking on, and I'm thinking, wow, it is absolutely pivotal that I have access to birth control so that I can be here and show up for my own children. That was in 2005. Fast forward to 2012, when the Affordable Care Act made birth control available at no cost. And I was so thrilled when that was passed. Not just because at that point I was a single mom raising two sons on a teacher's salary, and so it was helpful for my budget and my pocketbook, but also just because of what it meant. The fact that those policymakers cared enough about women's health to recognize that this was absolutely crucial. Birth control, it's not extra, it's not frivolous, it's absolutely imperative for women's health. It is not a political issue. It should not be a partisan issue. We know Youngkin vetoed this last year. It's very disappointing. Republicans in Virginia seem to think it is a partisan issue, and they are not voting to protect women's health. My own representatives, Delegate Joe McNamara, Senator Suderline, voted against this. And I just don't know how they go home to their wives and their daughters and look at them knowing that they are not protecting women's health. Winsome Sears voted against this. She wants to be our governor next year. We cannot let that happen. Birth control is absolutely critical health care for women. Now I'm 49, I'm still religiously taking that pill every single day, not just to prevent an unwanted pregnancy, which would be disastrous at my age, but also for a myriad of other health reasons that are important for women of my age. It is absolutely necessary. And I hope that Governor Youngkin this year will recognize that importance and get behind this, and that the Republican Party will start to understand that women's health is health, that it's necessary for us to make the decisions and live our lives, and get through our day-to-day lives. And I hope that they will support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing your story. I think that's a powerful way to close out. I want to thank our legislative champions, Delegate Price and Senator Hashmi, all of our speakers today, as well as the other legislative champions who have joined us, Senator Srinivasa, Delegate Siebold, and Senator Boysko. And with that, I'm happy to open it up to any questions from press. Okay, well, if anybody wants to do any one-on-ones, some of our speakers might be available to hang around. Otherwise, I will invite our speakers to get a photo. Bart, you can tell us where you want. And then any of the spectators here today who would like to get some photo or video with Frida, I invite you to do that too while she's still up. Thank you so much for joining us.